I've wondered for a while what a person who is blind from birth would see on a DMT trip, or if they would even see anything. I did some research and found the following 2 reports that have some pretty insane results, so I hope you find them interesting. I had what is probably the greatest experience I've ever had today, and it wasn't even my own. I had a couple of points of bundleweed DMT saved in the fridge for a while for this very day, not knowing when it may happen. My buddy Cody was driven up here for Christmas by his brother yesterday. He is congenitally blind from birth. He was born with a type of disease I cannot pronounce or spell. He is a frequent cannabis smoker. When I got up this morning, he had a small breakfast of fruit, and then I removed it from the fridge and explained to him what it was, and the process, and that I had a theory. His visual cortex is completely intact, but he just doesn't have eyes. So he should be able to have a DMT experience. He has never tried any true psychedelics before today, as the duration of the experiences put him off from trying it. My theory was that, never having had the experience of vision, he would not be able to describe what it was that happened, but I would be able to tell if it did, based on his reaction. So, I convinced him that it was worth the 10 minutes it takes, and convinced him that he would benefit from the experience. And if not, hell, it's only 10 minutes. I helped guide him down to my pond. I set up some lawn chairs, as it was in the upper 50s today, and sunny. It felt really nice. I loaded the bowl, gave it to him, and helped him light it. He took 3 huge rips, holding each in probably 20 seconds. Now, Cody usually holds his eyes closed. The only time I've ever seen his eyes was when I first met him. He has to actively try to open them, because it's a movement he almost never does. He does not have the muscle memory for it, so it takes effort for him. As soon as he let out the last hit, his eyes opened. Not just open, they shot wide open. He leaned onto his knees, out of the chair. How he could even move, I'm not sure, but he started sobbing. He cried for about 7 minutes. As suspected, he cannot say anything but one word about the experience. All he can say, with sobbing tears, is, "So beautiful, so beautiful. I don't, it's just so beautiful." This was about 10 hours ago. He's still asking me if that's what seeing is. How do I respond to that? He can't describe what it is he saw, but he saw, and he's been blind from birth. I don't know where I go from here, but we both feel as if we have uncovered something more profound than the experience itself. I just thought I would leave this here, as I have no idea the implications of this, and I have no hope of ever getting an explanation of exactly what he experienced from him, as he has no means of comparison or contrast. Also, I wanted to start a discussion about this. Seems very interesting. And that's the end of that report. I find that report is incredible, because you would have thought someone who's blind from birth, their brain wouldn't know how to see, but I guess if his visual cortex is completely intact, it would make sense that he does get it stimulated by DMT, but I've got no idea. I imagine maybe you wouldn't be able to see if the reason you were blind was your visual cortex actually wasn't working. But yeah, it's an incredible story. The link for that will be in the description. And now I'll move on to the next one, which is posted on Reddit by Aventador. And this one is called Blind Friend Smokes DMT. So like 2 weeks ago, I made a post about my friend's blind brother who wanted to smoke DMT. Well, I finally got the time to write this damn thing, so here we go. I'll skip most of the boring stuff. Basically, we were out on the patio and we did the sandwich method with about 60 milligrams, and he took 3 really big hits out of a pipe. And yeah, we'll call him Lucas. After his last big hit, he gave us the pipe, coughs a bit, and leans back in his chair. So normally when Lucas smokes weed, he gets super stoner eyes, really droopy, barely open and red. But when he leaned back in the chair, his eyes were wide open, a rare phenomenon, and they were jolting around crazy-like. It was actually pretty cool to see his eyes wide open, and him looking around like he was actually seeing stuff, as it was something I've never seen before with him. This lasted about 5-ish minutes, and then it calmed down a bit, but his eyes were still way more active than usual. Another 10 to 15 minutes go by, where he is moving around a bit in his chair, making small sounds, nothing we could understand, and farting. I have no idea why he was farting so much. It was like he shat himself or something, but once it was all over, we made sure he didn't shit himself, and he was miraculously clean. So once he starts coming back, 30 minutes later, me and his brother begin to talk to him about what it was like. Here's how that went. I just summed up what he said. I'll put direct quotes I remember in quotations. So, how was it? That was the most ridiculous thing I've ever experienced. He wasn't really able to talk that well yet, so we were just like, yeah, that's cool, and waited a bit more. He just kept saying stuff about how crazy it was and how it blew his mind. Once he began to talk normal, we asked the question everyone wants to know. So, could you see? I could do more than just see. I could talk out of my eyes. Holy shit. Well, tell us about it. His story. I'll tell it in first person, like I am Lucas. I think it will flow better. When I leaned back in the chair, I just kept falling and eventually landed in this super bright room. I could look around, and colours and shapes were extremely crispy. I felt like I was floating and started moving towards really colourful green. Remember, he is blind, but he can still faintly see colours and shades. The doctor has described it as a super light watercolour painting with a huge brush. That's how the doctor described his blindness, because it has to do with his actual eyes, not his brain. However, Lucas has a very severe case, so he most likely only sees in shades of grey and possibly tannish orange from what he has told us and what doctors believe. Wow, so did the colours look better? We asked. Yes, they were beautiful. I think it is what colours actually look like to you guys. I got pushed into the green and people were running around me, and after a while one of them ran up to me. It looked like a really spaghetti-like person, but it was staring me right in the eyes, and I was staring right back in the eyes. Usually Lucas looks towards the ground/torso or off to the sides when someone is talking to him, so this was different. I didn't even need to talk. We just looked at each other and knew exactly what the other was thinking. Maybe he could still read emotions of a person's face. We had an extremely long conversation about my life and how it was different from most other people. But I am who I am for a reason. What was the conversation like? We asked. No words at all. We kept flying by different things that happened in my life. I could actually see from a third-person view what was happening. I kind of paraphrased here. He was having a tough time describing the third-person concept, but I think I understood what he was trying to say pretty clearly. The first stop was when I was a young child and I was moved to a new school because I couldn't see. I saw all my teachers and friends with me. I relived the moment with vision. The second stop was when we got our first dog. I was playing with the dog and I could see him. I saw him with me and my family. I was able to understand why we had this random furry animal in our house. The third stop was a Christmas dinner with me and extended family. His brother chimed in. The one with aunt and uncle? Yes. We were all together and one of the coolest parts was the food. The food was so colourful and I could taste the food I had that day. The textures were so defined and distinct. Back to me. Lucas is very physically touchy. So, you know how we have the 5 major senses: sight, touch, smell, taste and feel. I think that about 20% of brain power is the maximum for every sense we have. But because Lucas doesn't have sight, the remaining 4 get boosted to a 25% maximum. I have no idea if this is scientific or even true, but hopefully you get what I'm saying. Because he is very touchy, that's how he learns a lot of what he knows. For example, he would be rubbing the ground and we would tell him, that's grass, it's green, cows eat that shit. You know, whatever. So for the part where he saw green, maybe he was experiencing a grass texture, or leaves or something, and his mind created the colour green for him. Time for one more stop in his trip. This one was probably the most touching. He was in middle school, and that's when all his friends started to get into sports and other activities that Lucas couldn't do too well without eyesight. The kids began to make fun of him, and Lucas was becoming mad. Not mad at the kids, but mad at God for not giving him eyesight. This was a tough period in his life. But after support from his family and lots of his brother's friends, yeah, I know, I'm awesome. But seriously, when we started including him in our activities, he became a whole new person. So when he was watching this scene with the spaghetti men, they started talking about why he was blind. He reached the conclusion that if everyone was the same, life would be boring. He said that being blind makes his experiences so much different from all those around him, but also everyone that knows Lucas lives a different life as well. Having a blind person as your friend is a pretty unique experience that not many know about. And that's the end of that one. Yeah, that's a really interesting one as well. I think it was especially interesting when he was saying that possibly when he was saying he could see green, he might have been referring to the feeling that he'd associated with green after touching the grass and being told that was green. And because colours are such a kind of abstract concept if you've never seen them. The only thing that's kind of creating the same green for me as the same green for you is, I suppose, the association with the same things being that same colour and we can both point to it and say that's green. But the actual experience of seeing green is a completely subjective one. So I suppose when it all boils down, it is just a feeling. And if he's already got that feeling associated with something, his brain could maybe invent a different way to experience that feeling. But yeah, I mean, I've got no idea. Also, I guess he could see a little bit, like blurry shapes. So his brain had something to work with. But yeah, no, it's all incredible. I mean, like I said earlier, more research needs to be done into it. I would really love to see anything that kind of a proper lab environment could come up with proper studies. But anyway, thanks a lot for watching this video. The links to the original reports will be in the description, and there'll also be a link to the Discord server I've made for the channel if you'd like to join and talk to similar people or just chat. Yeah, I'll see you in the next video.